as well as the actual term creation. There are also word values such as formation, primal wellspring, power of origination, the creative, begetting, figuration, wellspring of wisdom, primal raising, etc. Without doubt and in any respect, this book is a true emerald of real truth for educating and forming human consciousness, the psyche and the life of the senses. It embodies and unifies in itself those profound psyche and consciousness-forming values that are designated in spiritual teaching as love, music/song, poetry, nature, satisfaction, light and peace, and leads directly to the formation and achievement of new knowledge, valuable insights and evolutive cognitions. Every single explanation and any verse accompany the human consciousness and psyche on a journey through time into the past and the present, leading the human beings of Earth to the source of creation-oriented spiritual teaching and the members of what are called the Henoch peoples to the traces of their origin. The 7 pillars of wisdom are hidden in the nature of their instruction, namely, love, truth, fairness, knowledge, consequentiality, respect, venerability, and honor. These in turn nourish the 7 basic powers of humans such as strength, rationality, intellect, self-discipline, self-control, self-achievement and fearlessness, as they are also given in the spiritual teaching of Jmmanuel teaching lesson number 31. With every single page of the book, the journey through his work accompanied by the guardian of the treasure Edward, becomes a true revelation of the secrets of creational evolution, being human in the real and true sense, as well as illumination of the open secrets about the sense, the task and the purpose of human life. Once again, this book shows in a very impressive way how gigantic is the difference between the high, consciousness-building quality and preciousness of spiritual teaching compared to the numerous esoteric, cult/religious, philosophical and ideological incorrect and fallacious teachings. There really are worlds in the differentiation, logic, confirmability, testability and conclusiveness of their explanations, in which the very profound creational truth shines through its simple and convincing clarity, whereas the false teachings resound with incomprehensible complexity and confusion. In contrast to the highly illogical and scarcely confirmable instructions, half-truths, confused teachings and dogmas with a cult/religious and/or esoteric stamp, the creational and naturally given principles in the Goblet of Truth are taught by symbols, clear explanations and logically cogent explanations. The instructive explanations are in habitual opposition to cult/religious ambiguities, their apparently consistent half-truths and horrendous illogicality based on a concealed perplexity, overplayed helplessness and the blatant fear of death of the believers and the heads of the religion, and bear witness to the flight, fear and ignorance of the ecclesiastics in the face of the real truth. The numerous explanations and emphatic instructions in this book are no theoretical phrases, hollow platitudes or empty husks of words as are commonly employed by cult/religious people, pseudo-healers and self-appointed esoteric prophets. The creational natural affinity means that this teaching and its explanations of past and current time are a palpable balm for the consciousness and an invigorating refreshment for the psyche. During reading of the wonderful, euphonious and consciousness-nourishing verses, the interested reader's life of the senses will be unavoidably flooded by waves of the highest comfort, venerability and joy in existence. In every human being who is really seeking and is aware of creation, the loving, instructing and yet also strict and definite words of the prophets will lead to a consciousness-related harmonization, a feeling of comfort and security. Equally, as the result of personal searching and research, they will also lead to a concordance and confirmation of the creational natural teaching with one's own cognitions and trains of thought, by means of which this teaching that is oriented towards the creational law's valuable individual living experience will produce a generally beneficial psychic sensitivity. The Goblet of Truth is like a final return to a long-forgotten home that one had thought had been lost, and that unexpected and overwhelming view of a gleaming blue Earth planet that is offered to star travelers afflicted by homesickness at the end of a lengthy odyssey across the whole universe. In its highly extensive variety of themes, complexity of content, and true origin, this book can only be understood with difficulty by current common sense. It is equally difficult to describe it laconically in short phrases. It is a teaching book that is unparalleled on this earth and, in its current form, probably exists nowhere else apart from on the foreign worlds and planets of the Pleiadian Federation. In other words, on those worlds which have had knowledge about the creational instruction of Enoch and keep the treasures of his teaching for millennia in their archives and records. The Goblet of Truth describes the human being as a link between the fine-structured and the material worlds. Numerous creational laws and recommendations, as well as guidelines and advice on all possible areas of the human beings of Earth that are practical for life, are explained in their original form. For those people who have not yet found or sparked in themselves the fire of connectedness to the true creational laws and principles, it might be that the explanations will appear antiquated in their form of linguistic expression and their instructions. However, the prophetic explanations are of contemporary currency and astonishing timelessness in their millennium-old form. It is also interesting that, even millennia ago, the evil degeneracies and dangerous consciousness enslavement of modern cult religions had been described and warnings issued against their consciousness and psyche-destroying powers and effects. Equally, the earlier prophets spoke about the problem of overpopulation even millennia ago. By far the majority of the instructions is dedicated to humanity, interpersonal relationships, respect in dealings with one another, consideration and the equality of man and woman, marriage, intimate and platonic friendships, forms of relationship between members of the same sex and opposite sexes, as well as human sexuality, separations and divorce, are explained, as are enmities, punishments, killing and degeneracy, or the issues surrounding the death penalty, etc. Of equal extent, there are numerous instructions relating to the creational purpose of life, evolutive tasks, as well as the importance of personal searching, researching and learning. Based on creational natural principles, laws and recommendations, a logically cogent explanation is provided for one's own mortality, growth and decay, the sense and purpose of dying, life after death, grieving and rebirth, as well as the relationships between suicide and assisted dying. Many verses also focus on the high value of holistic development, the formation of character and personality, as well as working out individual cognitions, practical experiences and insights. Furthermore, the teaching also contains various instructions on the topics of nutrition, health and hygiene, work or personal balancing such as enjoyments, etc. Warnings are issued against consciousness impairing dangers posed by sect members, false teachers, followers of esotericists, personality cults and missionary organizations, as well as against the theft of spiritual teaching by swindlers, wheelers/dealers, esotericists and all kinds of deceivers who are greedy for profit. Even millennia ago, the traditions contained multiple references to the last prophet in the line of 7, as well as to his unique and ultimate instructions and writings. Even the Figu Association and the representatives of the prophet merit a mention in the old traditions. A vehement reference is made to the equality of members and to avoiding a cult of the personality, arrogance, overestimation of the self, or false veneration of the prophet or his members. Numerous other topics which are practical to life in the sense of true humanity follow one another in a seamless sequence and make the work a priceless treasure of liberal advice and unceremonious instruction.